I hadn't even agreed to host, yet the plans were already in motion. I stood at my mailbox that Tuesday afternoon, holding a thick cream-colored envelope that felt expensive, the kind of invitation you send when you're sure of the answer. Gold lettering, embossed family crest, and my younger brother Mason's name at the top. My name was nowhere on it, but the address was unmistakably mine. My name is Tyler. I'm 33 years old, and I live in Seattle, in a mid-century modern house that I bought after years of hustling as a freelance architect. I'd put every dime I had into this place, blood, sweat, and more than a few sleepless nights, and yet, here it was, now apparently the setting for someone else's celebration. Inside the envelope was the invitation to Mason's engagement party. The words family property leaped off the page like a slap to the face. Family property, like I was just the caretaker of some shared asset instead of the actual owner. My phone buzzed in my back pocket before I could even close the mailbox. My mother's name lit up the screen. Mom, darling, your house is perfect for the event, she said before I could even say hello. Mason's fiancée, Hannah, is so excited. She's always wanted a view of the city skyline for her big night. Mom, I didn't agree to this, I said, voice low, feeling the heat creep up my neck. No one asked me. She didn't miss a beat. Oh, don't be difficult. We're all family. Besides, Mason already told everyone. I gripped the phone tighter. My house, the one place that was supposed to be mine, was now the stage for Mason's big moment. And they hadn't even asked. I walked back inside, the cold March wind biting at my face. My living room was still scattered with my sketches and sample boards from my last project, a house renovation in Queen Anne. My house, my work, my life. Mom's voice crackled through the phone again. Darling, you'll need to move your art and clear out the living room for better flow. And I gave the event planner your spare key so they could get started. She said it like she was ordering groceries, like my home was just a backdrop for Mason's performance. I closed my eyes, fighting the wave of anger that started to build. Don't worry, she added lightly. It's just one night. I didn't say anything back. My silence was the only power I had left in that moment. When I finally hung up, I stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by my things, the paintings, the books, the small pieces of my life that had never mattered to them. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone again. I called Ty, my best friend from college. If there was anyone who would understand, it was him. Dude, what's up? Ty answered, his voice already making me feel a little steadier. They're doing it again, I said quietly. They're just taking over. My house, my life. He let out a low whistle. Man, that's messed up. What are you going to do? I looked around at the walls I'd painted myself, the shelves I'd built to hold my sketches and models. I thought of all the nights I'd spent here, alone, but proud. My house, my life. If they're going to stage a show, I said, my voice calm, maybe I'll flip the script. I ended the call and sat down at my kitchen table. I pulled out my laptop and typed into the search bar, private real estate listings, Seattle. If they wanted to turn my house into a family stage, fine. I'd just sell it right out from under them. They'd called it family property. I'd make sure they never got to use it again. I took another deep breath, the tightness in my chest easing just a little. I wasn't going to let them take everything from me. Not this time. The stage was set, but the play was mine to direct. The next morning, I woke up to a text from my mom. She wanted to confirm the final touches for Mason's engagement party. Final touches, like it was a done deal, like my house was already a family museum. I stared at the message, the words blurring together, and felt a wave of something I hadn't let myself feel in years. Resentment. It crawled up my spine, made my chest tight. I replied with a single line, "We need to talk." By the time I got to my parents' place in Bellevue, my mom was already fussing with her hair in the hallway mirror, like she had somewhere more important to be. "Sweetheart," she said the second she saw me, her smile practiced and bright. "I know you're upset, but let's be adults about this." "Mom, you didn't even ask," I said. "I bought that house myself. I worked for it." She waved her hand like she was shooing away a fly. "Oh, don't be so dramatic, Tyler. It's family. We all share. Besides, Mason already told everyone it's happening." The words hit me like a punch. Mason already told everyone. That was it then. My house, my life, already decided for me. I sat down on the edge of the couch, my head pounding. You know I bought that place with years of freelance jobs. right? Late nights, skipped meals. I put everything into it. She didn't even flinch. Of course, dear. But that's just money. What's money compared to family? And Hannah's parents are so impressed. They said your house has such clean lines, such a perfect view. Mom, it's not about money, I said, my voice low and tight. It's about respect. She just looked at me like I was speaking a different language. Mason's fiance wants to move some things around for better flow, she said, her tone breezy. Oh, and I gave the event planner your spare key. They'll stop by tomorrow to get started. My stomach turned. She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like she hadn't just told me she'd handed over my house to strangers. I didn't answer. My silence was a choice, one of the few I had left. When I got home that night, I poured a glass of whiskey and called Ty. Hey man, he said, his voice calm and steady like always. How bad is it? I told him everything. The invitations, the family property lie, the event planner with my key. He let out a low whistle. They're pushing you into a corner, Ty. You gonna let them do that? I took a sip of the whiskey, let it burn down my throat. No, I said quietly. No, I'm not. I pulled out my laptop and opened the listing page I'd bookmarked the night before. My fingers hovered over the keys, my heart pounding. I typed out the details of my house, every square foot of it. The city view, the clean lines, the same things my mom had bragged about to Hannah's parents. Except this time, it wasn't for them. It was for me. When I finished, I leaned back in my chair. The ad was short, but it said everything. Private listing. Serious inquiries only. If they wanted to stage their perfect party, let them. But they wouldn't see the real show I was putting on. The one where I finally took back what was mine. I sat there in the quiet, feeling the weight of it all. My house, my choice, my move. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. A small, stubborn flame that told me I wasn't powerless. Not anymore. They could plan their party, they could dress it up however they wanted, but the real deal was already in motion. They just didn't know it yet. The next morning, I woke up early, earlier than I had in months. The first light of dawn was creeping through the city skyline, and for once I felt steady. My house was quiet, and I wanted to keep it that way. I walked through each room, taking it all in. The living room with my custom-built shelves, the kitchen where I'd taught myself to cook during long nights after deadlines, the balcony that overlooked Elliott Bay. Every inch of this place was mine. My sweat, my sacrifice. My phone buzzed nonstop. Mason's fiancée, Hannah, wanted to talk about lighting options. My mom was sending Pinterest boards for the perfect party flow. Even my dad, who usually stayed out of family drama, sent a text, "Let's not make this a big deal, son." I ignored them all. Instead, I called Dana Hart, the real estate agent Ty had recommended. She picked up on the first ring, her voice calm and businesslike. "Tyler, good to hear from you. How can I help?" I told her everything. The listing I wanted, the privacy I needed, the need for discretion. She didn't flinch. "We can list it quietly," she said. "I'll handle the showings personally. No open houses, no flyers, just serious buyers." I felt a rush of relief. "Thank you," I said. "Send me the paperwork, ownership documents, payment receipts, any notes about renovations," she said. "The more thorough you are, the faster we can move." I spent the next 2 hours digging out every folder I'd kept in a metal box in my bedroom closet. The box was old, the corners bent, but it was filled with proof. Every dollar I'd scraped together for this place, every invoice I'd hustled for. I scanned everything, emailed them to Dana. The weight of it felt lighter already. By the time I'd finished, the event planner was ringing my doorbell. A woman in a tailored dress, clipboard in hand, big fake smile. "Hi, I'm here to start measuring for the bar and dessert stations." I forced a smile. "Come in." She moved through the rooms like it was a showroom. She talked about floral arrangements, flow, ambiance. She didn't even notice the empty box on the floor, half packed with my artwork. I let her talk, let her plan, because while she was measuring for Mason's party, I was already measuring for the movers. She handed me a stack of color swatches on her way out. "Let me know what you think." She chirped. "Will do," I lied, closing the door behind her. When she was gone, I called Ty again. "It's happening," I said. "The listing goes live in 2 days." "You sure about this?" he asked. "I've never been more sure." He let out a low whistle. "You're playing the long game, man. I respect it." I looked around the living room one more time. They'd turned it into a stage, but the script was mine now. Later that night, as the city lights flickered on, I stood by the window, my drink in hand. I could almost see the party, the laughter, the toasts, the polite small talk, all of it happening on the edge of something they couldn't see coming. Let them have their perfect night. Let them have the centerpieces and the catered shrimp. But in the days after, they'd realize the stage was gone. I took a deep breath, feeling the first real calm I'd felt in weeks. My house, my decision, my escape. They thought they were in charge, but they'd never really been. I was done performing for them, and the show was almost over. That Friday, my parents insisted I join them for what they called a casual family dinner. It was anything but casual. The second I walked in, the air was heavy with expectations and unspoken tension. We sat at the long oak table, my mother fussing with the silverware, my dad swirling his wine glass like he was tasting power. Mason's fiancée, Hannah, was there too, her smile a tight line that didn't reach her eyes. "Tyler," my dad started, his voice low and calm, "your mother tells me you're still hesitant about hosting the party." "Hesitant?" I said, raising an eyebrow. "I never agreed to it in the first place." My mom sighed dramatically. "We've talked about this, honey. It's family, and it's just one night." "One night," I echoed. "Right." Hannah leaned forward, her voice syrupy sweet. "Tyler, the house is just perfect. And honestly, it would mean so much to Mason and me. Besides, we're thinking ahead. It would be great to have the wedding in your backyard, too." My fork clinked against my plate. I glanced around the table at the people who thought my life was just a backdrop for their dreams. My mom was already nodding, her lips forming an automatic yes. I leaned back in my chair, trying to stay calm. "So you're planning the wedding too? At my house?" My dad cleared his throat. "Son, let's not be stubborn about this. You've got the space, and Mason's firm is booming. There might even be a place for you there, if you just stop with the freelance nonsense." I let out a slow breath, gripping the edge of the table. "Freelance nonsense?" I said quietly. "That nonsense paid for every inch of that house." My mom's eyes narrowed. "We're just saying, honey, you're not getting any younger. Maybe you need a little more stability." The words stung more than I wanted to admit. Stability. Like I was some drifting kid who hadn't figured life out yet. I opened my mouth to respond, but my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and read the message. "Dana. 2 offers in already. Above asking." I felt a slow smile spread across my face. I looked back at the table, at the people so sure they were in control. "You know what's funny?" I said, setting my phone down. "You're all so worried about me, but I'm doing just fine." My mom frowned. "Tyler, don't be flippant. This is family. Mason is counting on you." Mason. Always Mason. I picked up my wine glass, holding it up like a toast. "To family," I said. "The ones who see your house as a prop, your work as a hobby, and your life as something to rearrange for their convenience." My dad's jaw tightened. "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" I said, meeting his eyes. "Because here's the truth. I already signed the closing documents. The house is gone." Silence. It was like someone had pulled the plug on the entire dinner. Hannah's mouth dropped open. My mom's face went pale, her fork clattering against her plate. My dad blinked, his mouth opening and closing like he'd forgotten how to talk. Mason wasn't even there, but I could already imagine how he'd react. You sold it?" My mom finally managed to choke out. I shrugged, the calm in my voice startling even me. "I did, so I guess you'll have to find a new backdrop for your perfect party." The quiet in the room was almost soothing. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was being swallowed whole by their demands. I felt free. They'd spent the entire dinner stacking expectations on my shoulders, but I'd already slipped out from under them. I stood, dropping my napkin onto my plate. "Thanks for dinner," I said, my voice light. "I'll let you know when the final walkthrough is." I walked out before anyone could stop me, my phone buzzing in my pocket again. Another offer. Another chance. I stepped into the cool night air, the sky wide and endless above me. My house was gone. My life was mine again. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could finally breathe. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. The air was crisp, the city still asleep. I brewed coffee and walked through my house, room by room, soaking it all in. Each space held memories, not of parties and perfect family gatherings, but of quiet nights spent drafting blueprints, of dinners with Ty, of hours of stubborn, hard-won independence. I took out my phone and started recording a video, room by room. I wanted to document what was mine, the little things my family never noticed or cared about. My grandmother's old lamp in the corner, the dent in the coffee table from when I dropped a stack of architecture books, the paint color I had picked for the kitchen, my choice alone. It felt like a goodbye letter to myself. Halfway through filming, Ty showed up with a six-pack of cheap beer and a bunch of moving boxes. "Ready to do this?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, feeling the words settle in my chest. I'm done letting them treat this place like theirs. We started packing everything personal, the artwork, the books, the little things that made the house mine. Ty was careful with the framed sketches, wrapping them in bubble wrap like they were museum pieces. He didn't say much, just worked steadily, his presence a grounding force. At one point, he cracked open a beer and handed it to me. "You're really doing this, huh?" he said. I nodded, taking a long sip. "I am." In the middle of packing, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from my mom, her voice syrupy sweet like it always was when she wanted something. She was complaining about my light fixtures again. "They're so stark, Tyler. They don't really fit the aesthetic we're going for," she said. I played the voicemail for Ty, and he just raised an eyebrow. "Wow," he said, shaking his head. "They're still going to pretend this is about the house, not you." "I know," I said, "but I'm done pretending with them." We worked in silence for a while, the only sounds the rip of packing tape and the shuffle of boxes. When we got to the bedroom, Ty looked around and said, "It's weird, right? This isn't even about the party anymore. It's about them needing to control everything." "Yeah," I said, "and me letting them." We packed everything that mattered to me into a storage unit. The rest, the furniture my mom liked to brag about, the decorative pieces she'd picked out for future entertaining, I left behind. Let them think the house was still staged for their show. I scheduled the showings with Dana during the hours my family assumed I'd be at work. I didn't want to risk them showing up and causing a scene. Every box that left my house felt like another weight lifted from my shoulders. Late that night, Ty and I sat on the floor of the living room, drinking the last of the beer. The house was half empty, the air echoing with the kind of quiet that felt like relief. "You know," Ty said, nudging my shoulder, "you're going to freak them out." "Good," I said. "They're so used to me folding." Ty raised his bottle in a half salute. "To the collapse of the perfect stage," he said, grinning. I clinked my bottle against his, feeling a slow smile spread across my face. "To the end of the show." We sat there for a while, talking about nothing and everything. The years I'd spent trying to prove myself, the years I'd spent being the good son, the responsible one. I realized then that none of it had ever been enough for them. But that didn't matter anymore. It was enough for me. Before Ty left, he looked at me and said, "You know, it's not just a house, it's you taking back your life." I nodded. "I know." When he was gone, I stood in the empty living room, the city lights glimmering outside. My house was still theirs in their minds, still part of their perfect story. But in a few days, they'd see the truth. They'd see that the show was over. And for once, I wouldn't be in the audience. I'd be the one closing the curtain. On the day of the party, I woke up early, but instead of getting ready to host, I grabbed my coat and walked down to the cafe a few blocks away. It was quiet there, the morning rush already fading, and the barista didn't even blink when I ordered a large black coffee and took over a corner table. I had my laptop with me and my phone, but more importantly, I had peace. Outside, the city was waking up, but inside, I felt calm. No frantic phone calls, no fake smiles, no forced obligations. I pulled up the security footage on my phone. The cameras I'd installed years ago for peace of mind had become something else today. A front row seat to the chaos I knew was coming. At first, it was the caterers arriving in sleek vans, pulling up to my driveway with trays and flowers and silver cutlery. Then came the florists, lugging boxes of delicate arrangements. Hannah's parents showed up next, her dad in a crisp suit, her mom in a silk blouse that probably cost more than my first drafting table. And then finally, my family. I watched my mom approach the front door, her perfect hair sprayed into submission. She tried the spare key she'd taken from my kitchen drawer weeks ago. It didn't work. Her smile faltered, her eyes narrowing like she couldn't quite believe what was happening. She turned to my dad, who said something I couldn't hear, And then she pulled out her phone, probably to call me. I silenced the call without even glancing at the screen. The doorbell footage caught everything: the confusion on the caterers' faces, the growing frustration in my mom's posture, the way Hannah's parents tried to hide their discomfort. My sister-in-law stood there, phone in hand, frowning down at the guest list she'd probably memorized. Mason wasn't even there yet, still probably prepping for his grand entrance. One of the florists tried to find another entrance. No luck. The porch key was changed days ago, the security code reset. My house, my rules. Finally, I took another sip of coffee, the taste sharper than usual. Outside the cafe window, the sun was rising over the sound, a calm wash of light over the city that felt almost like a benediction. A notification popped up on my phone, a text from Ty. "You watching this?" I typed back, "Front row seat." 10 minutes later, the confusion turned to chaos. The hashtag Bennett Party Fail started trending locally. Photos of guests in designer clothes standing around in the cold, caterers arguing about payment, the event planner pacing like she was about to have a meltdown. I watched the video of my mom pulling Hannah's mom aside, her voice sharp and frantic. I didn't need audio to know she was saying it was all my fault, that I'd ruined everything. But I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. Finally, I opened my email, drafted a simple message, and sent it to my family. Subject: the house. This was never your house. Attached are the receipts. Good luck with your perfect party. Tyler, I hit send and closed my laptop. The last thing I saw on the footage was my mom's face as she read her phone, her expression slipping from confusion to shock to fury. The perfect show unraveling in real time. I leaned back in my chair, let out a slow breath. For the first time in years, I felt light. Free. They thought they could build their fantasy on my back, but they'd forgotten one thing. It was never their house. And it was never my job to make them feel at home in my life. I finished my coffee and stepped out into the morning light. Let them deal with the aftermath. Let them feel the cold for once, the same cold they'd made me feel for years. And me, I was done. A few days after the party fiasco, I met up with Dana for dinner. She'd been the steady hand in the chaos. And that night, she showed up to our table at this little Italian place near Capitol Hill, wearing a black dress that looked like it belonged in a boardroom, and a smile that said she knew exactly how everything had played out. I told her everything, the way my family's voicemails had turned from shocked to downright furious in the days after the party fell apart, the way my mom's voice cracked with that false sweetness she used when she wanted something, the way Mason's fiancée had the nerve to message me, calling me unstable, vindictive, ungrateful, as if I owed them the house, owed them the world. Dana just sipped her wine, watching me with that calm, steady gaze. "They're going to keep pushing," she said quietly. "People like that always do. But you're not their safety net anymore." I nodded. "Yeah, their lawyer called me yesterday, tried to guilt me about the family trust, said if I didn't cooperate, they'd cut me off." "Cut you off from what?" Dana said, raising an eyebrow. "You built this on your own." "Exactly," I said. I'd removed myself from the family trust years ago when I first bought the house. They just assumed they still had me. I picked at the label on my beer bottle, feeling the last of the old weight slide off my shoulders. "The video of the party fail went viral," I said. "People are calling me brave, but I don't feel brave. I just feel done." Dana gave me a little smile. "Sometimes done is braver than anything else." I laughed, a quiet, tired laugh. "Yeah, done is good." She raised her glass, and I clinked mine against hers. "To peace, finally earned," she said. "To peace," I echoed. My phone buzzed on the table, and I turned it over without looking. I didn't want to see the messages. My mom, my dad, Mason. All of them so sure I'd come crawling back. But this time, I didn't feel that pull in my chest. This time, I didn't feel anything at all. I told Dana about the last voicemail my mom had left that morning, her voice dripping with that mix of pity and scorn she'd perfected over the years. "You're breaking this family apart, Tyler," I said, mimicking her tone. "We're your blood. This isn't how family works." "And how did that feel?" Dana asked softly. I let out a slow breath. It didn't hurt, not like it used to. For the first time in my life, it just felt quiet, like I could finally hear myself think. The waiter dropped off our plates, and we ate in that comfortable silence that only happens when you've left the noise behind. The pasta was good, the wine even better. Dana asked about my next steps, and I realized I didn't have to answer to anyone but myself anymore. I looked at her across the table at the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled and felt something shift in my chest. A tiny spark, nothing more, but enough. After dinner, we stepped out into the cool night air, and I walked her to her car. She paused before getting in, turning to me with that wry smile of hers. "So what's next, Tyler?" she asked. I shrugged, the weight of expectation gone. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but for once I'm not scared of the not knowing." She grinned and leaned in to kiss my cheek. "That's the best place to be," she said. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed again, but this time I didn't even bother to flip it over. I let it ring out into the night, the last echoes of a life I'd finally left behind. I was done being the family's safety net, done being the fallback plan, the backup wallet, the backdrop for their perfect lives. For the first time in years, I was free, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to apologize for it. A week later, Dana took me to see a fixer-upper she'd found in an older part of town. A quirky Victorian with a crooked porch and hideous wallpaper that looked like it hadn't been touched since the 80s. It was a far cry from the sleek lines and modern finishes of my old house. But the second I walked through the door, I felt something different. Possibility. "This place has real character," Dana said, stepping carefully over a creaky floorboard. "Most people would run away screaming, but I figured you'd see it the way I do. A fresh start." I ran my hand along the worn banister, feeling the scratches and dents beneath my fingers. It didn't feel like a showroom for anyone else's dreams. It felt like a blank page, waiting for me to decide what story to write on it. "It's a disaster," I said with a small smile. "It's perfect," she replied. We walked through each room, the drafty kitchen with peeling linoleum, the upstairs bedrooms that smelled like old books, and possibility. In the back, there was a tiny garden choked with weeds, but I could already see the life waiting underneath. A place that didn't care about curated events or floral arrangements, just me and whatever future I wanted to build. I decided to document the renovation online, call it Reclaiming Space, a chance to show the messy truth behind turning something that's falling apart into something you could actually live in. I'd always kept my work private, but this time felt different. Like maybe sharing the process would help me stay grounded in what I was really doing, reclaiming not just a house, but my place in the world. The first video I posted was just a tour, the creaky floors, the paint swatches, the small victories, and inevitable setbacks. Within a few days, messages started rolling in. "Thanks for showing me. It's okay to say no. I've been there too. You're giving me courage." It was strange and humbling seeing how my own quiet decision to stop being used could resonate with people I'd never met. One evening, as I was ripping out a section of hideous floral wallpaper, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't pick up, but something in me was curious. "Hello?" I said, wiping dust from my hands. A familiar voice crackled through the line. "Tyler, it's Enzo, Hannah's fiance's brother." His voice was tense but calm. I wanted to say, you were right. They're doing it to us too now." For a second, I was too stunned to answer. Then I let out a quiet laugh. "Yeah," I said. "They don't change, do they?" "No," he said, his voice tired, "but I'm done being their backup plan too. Thank you for showing me it's okay to walk away." After we hung up, I leaned against the half-stripped wall and let the weight of it sink in. I wasn't alone anymore. And maybe that was the real prize. Not the new house, not the freedom from my family's demands, but the knowledge that in standing up for myself, I'd shown someone else that they could too. A few days later, Dana met me at the new place, holding out the keys with a smile. "It's all yours now," she said, ugly wallpaper and all. I took them from her, feeling their weight in my palm. The house was mine. The future was mine. As I stood in the doorway, breathing in the scent of old wood and fresh hope, I realized I didn't need to be part of anyone else's perfect picture. I didn't need to keep playing the role they'd written for me. I was here. I was free. And I was finally exactly where I belonged.